circumstantial evidence case. In a circumstantial evidence case, it's as though you're putting pieces of a puzzle together, and when that puzzle is assembled, the puzzle will be the picture of the person who killed this child. These are more pieces to that puzzle, and the puzzle picture is becoming more in focus, and it's looking more and more as though the killer of this child is the mother.
Does she have a problem with the defense in making statements? These are some of the things that she said. She said that Nanny Zanny took the child. She said that Fernandez Gonzalez was her nanny who took the child. She said that she was kidnapped from Blanchard Park by Zanny and some other people. She's also tried to blame it on her ex-fiance, Jesse Grund. She told investigators that Jesse Grund, or somehow she got the message across that Jesse Grund had a key to her car. And she was telling her family, watch that Jesse. She was insinuating that he had something to do with it. But she also told her family in jail that she hadn't seen Jesse for more than a year. But she was still sort of warning them about Jesse. So in light of this physical evidence that comes from the Anthony home, does she have a real credibility issue here with the jury? I mean, how can they? Is there any way they can weave Jesse Grund or Zenaida Gonzalez, whoever she may be, into this physical evidence that came from the home?
No, they can't. And what this means is that her credibility has always been a problem for the defense from the very beginning. But as the forensic evidence and the evidence from the crime scene is more closely associated with her and that home to the exclusion of these other characters that she wants to put the blame on, the more problem that she does have with the credibility. And certainly you can't sell a defense that someone else did it when the evidence is excluding those individuals and are becoming completely consistent with the mother in this case.
And I'm going to go into the video in a second, but there's something else. Today the defense put out a statement about this evidence. While Casey may have been saying that Zanny the nanny did it and I look at my fiance, the defense now this is their response today to this. I'll just read you a bit of it because it says, according to defense lawyers for Casey Anthony, the state's forensic report on duct tape, plastic bags, and other items is a one-sided, law enforcement-generated report and is biased and speculative. It uses, quote, junk science, the kind of flawed comparative analysis that the 2-year study by National Academy of Sciences released today. Apparently there was a critical report. It's been, we've been hearing about it. It was about to come out, talking about the, I guess, unreliability or the flaws in forensic science. And they're pointing at that saying, so this is now a quote from defense co-counsel Linda Kenny Bodden, we're looking closely at the NAS report. Forensic analyses are like those in this discovery are conducted by law enforcement agencies with no independent oversight. Our defense experts will make sure there is an objective analysis of this biased discovery. The Anthony case may be one to set a precedent in exposing the flaws in evidence that only law enforcement has tested. So the defense doesn't seem to be, her defense team doesn't seem to be talking about anybody else at this point. What does this tell you about?
This case has always boiled down to the forensic evidence. There's no eyewitness to put the smoking gun in Casey's hands. This is a case of forensic evidence, and it has always been, it always will be, a battle of the experts. The exception I would take to this, the release by the defense of this statement is that law enforcement has conducted a biased investigation or a biased analysis. That's not what forensic examiners do. They examine and let the chips fall where they may. If they exonerate a suspect, so be it. If they are consistent with guilt, then so be it. but this release of this statement does not surprise me. You've now seen a shift from, well, it was some other person that did it, to, well, the science that's connecting Casey to the murder of this child is junk science, and they're going to attack it, and attack it. That's their only defense available to them.
If they're saying that it's junk science, then how is their science going to be any better?
It's not. It's not, and that's disingenuous. Disingenuous at best to say that it's junk science. What the more correct posture to take would be: look, we're going to question the qualifications and the methodology of the forensic examiners. Not that the science that it is based on is junk, but let's see if in fact the human aspect of this created some error in the testing. But they are not attacking it that way. They're saying, well, this is just junk science, which I think is a mistake in this type of case, or any case. The jury's going to believe the experts. The question is going to be, are they going to believe the state experts, or are they going to believe defense experts, if they can find a defense expert to contradict what the state has put forth?
And one more question about that. How can they accept the science that says this is Kaylee Marie Anthony, but then try to fight all the other evidence that's being done by the same lab, by the same...
To attempt to do this in front of a jury would be fatal. You can't contradict your defense in front of a jury. You have to take a line of defense and stick with it. You can't change it in midstream once you're in front of the jury.
How can they say, we accept the science that identified these remains as Kaylee Marie Anthony, that those tests were done by the same people who were doing the other testing? How can the defense say, we accept that part of it, that this is Kaylee through the DNA testing, but we don't accept the rest of the science by the same people? How can they do that?
You can't with any credibility whatsoever. And again, it just seems that it's a hit or miss. As the evidence is released in this case, the defense takes yet another tactic. And again, they may do that absent a jury being seated, but once a jury is seated, that could be fatal in the defense. But these statements that this is junk science, they're disingenuous at best.
Okay, and let me just get to one more thing. The videotape that we talked about at length back in January, I guess. Cindy told investigators in December, I think it was December, I have to look at the date, but I want to say it was after Kaylee's remains were found, and investigators went back to the house to take more evidence from the house. Cindy told them, so it would have been after December 11th, Cindy told investigators that she had sent someone to walk the area where those remains were found, and said that they had found nothing a month earlier. We know that that videotape was taken a month earlier, and I'm going to assume by that statement that they didn't have the videotape yet, or she didn't know there was a videotape of it. I won't. In fact, let me go back because I don't know those things. Let me just ask you, by Cindy telling investigators in December after Kaylee's remains were found that she had sent someone to walk that area and that there was nothing there at the time, a month earlier in November, what do you make of that, knowing what we now know about the videotape and the private investigators?
Well, that raises a couple of questions in my mind. Number one, they need to find out exactly who Cindy says that she sent out there. Number one. Number two, they need to find out from Mr. Casey, was the person on the other end of the phone, in fact, Cindy? Did she send you out there? That then will form a foundation for further investigation, and it would lead one to the question, well, what would cause Cindy to send these investigators to that specific location and have them take a videotape of them searching and finding nothing?